I still remember the smell of wet earth that morning, sweet, alive, almost kind. Armero woke slowly beneath a veil of mist. Children ran through puddles left by the night's rain, their laughter echoing between adobe walls. Shopkeepers lifted wooden shutters, brushing dust from fruit stands. A girl crossed the square barefoot, clutching a basket of warm bread. From the church tower the bell rang once, soft and steady. Above it all the mountain watched, white, still, wrapped in clouds like a saint at rest. No one feared it. It was part of their days like rain or prayer. When smoke rose from its peak they said it was blessing the town. The radio spoke calmly minor activity, nothing unusual. So they believed it, as they always had. But far beneath the snow, something shifted, a slow awakening, a heartbeat older than memory. Some swore the mountain groaned that morning. Others said it cried. And then, in the middle of that calm, the ground began to whisper.
Welcome to the market. What can I get for you today?
Life in Armero moved gently, like a song everyone already knew. Mornings smelled of coffee and wet clay, wood smoke curling from kitchen fires as the town stretched awake. Vendors rolled their carts to the plaza, calling out familiar names instead of prices. Dogs dozed in doorways, children chased chickens through puddles that mirrored the distant, snow-white peak. The mountain stood there as it always had, bright, patient, eternal, a guardian draped in silence. Maria worked in the small bakery on the corner of Cal Real. The windows fogged with the warmth of bread, the scent wrapping around every passerby. She hummed softly while kneading dough, her daughter sitting beside her, tracing hearts and flowers into the flour-dusted counter. Across the street, an old man tuned his radio to the morning news, the same calm voice assuring everyone that Nevado del Ruiz was quiet. Sundays were the heartbeat of the valley. Church bells carried over fields of coffee and maize, blending with laughter and the chatter of markets. People believed the mountain protected them, it had for generations. When it rumbled, they smiled. "She's just stretching," they'd say, the same way they might excuse a friend's sigh. There was kindness here, visible, ordinary everywhere. Neighbors shared soup through open windows. Men repaired each other's roofs before the rains came. White sheets swayed between houses like flags of peace. That afternoon the air grew strangely still. Maria paused, wiping flour from her hands, glancing outside. The sky had changed, not darker, just softer, tinted with the color of waiting. The birds were gone. Even the bells seemed to hold their echo. It felt, she thought, as if the whole world had taken one long breath and hadn't let it go. By evening, the air had changed, thicker, heavier, tasting faintly of ash. It clung to skin like mist that refused to lift. Birds circled low over the rooftops, confused, their cries sharp against the fading light. The radio at the cafe stuttered mid-song, replaced by a calm official voice. Minor activity reported at Nevado del Ruiz. No cause for alarm. People nodded, but no one met each other's eyes. The words sounded rehearsed, distant, as if meant for some other town. In the plaza, men leaned against their trucks, joking too loudly, lighting cigarettes they never finished. Each laugh ended too soon. A stray dog stood at the edge of the square, facing the hills, growling into nothing. No one could see what it saw. At the bakery, Maria stepped outside, flour still on her hands, wiping them absently against her apron. The sky above the mountain burned faintly red, not fire, not sunset, something in between. She whispered, just the light, though her chest already knew otherwise. She turned the sign to closed and bolted the door. As night fell, tremors slipped through the floorboards, soft, uncertain, like a child testing its voice. Glasses shivered on the shelves. The radio hissed, then went silent. Maria's daughter woke, eyes wide. "Mama, the house is breathing." Maria pulled her close, whispering, "It's just the wind." But outside, the wind had stopped hours ago. The quiet that followed was not peace, it was waiting. In the distance, deep beneath the snow and stone, water hissed against heat, and the mountain, after a century of silence, began to listen back. It started with a sound, not thunder, not wind, but a low growl that seemed to rise from the ground itself. It crept through walls, through floors, through bone. Dogs howled. Birds exploded from the trees in a single frantic cloud. Then the mountain split open. A flash of red light burst across the sky, fierce as fire on snow. For an instant, night turned to day, and then to something worse. The earth shook like a living thing trying to tear itself apart. Maria stumbled from her bed, the air hot and metallic. She grabbed her daughter without thinking, feet bare, running into the street as the first tremor cracked the road in two. Power lines whipped and sparked overhead, The church bell swung once, a hollow clang before vanishing into darkness. The air thickened with ash, choking, alive, impossible to breathe. Somewhere in the chaos, someone screamed, "Run uphill!" But the hill was already moving. The lahar came not as a river, but as a wall, a solid, unstoppable surge of mud, rock, trees, and fire. It moved with purpose, devouring everything in its path. Houses folded like paper. Cars lifted, spun, disappeared. A bus tried to turn, then vanished in the current. Maria clutched her daughter tighter, unable to tell whose heartbeat was hammering in her chest. The roar was beyond sound, a deep, endless thunder, the noise of 10 storms colliding. It wasn't just the mountain breaking, it was the world itself unraveling. People screamed prayers, names, words that vanished before they reached the air. The ground tore open, swallowing streets, gardens, memories. A man clung to a fence post until it dissolved beneath him. Another climbed to a roof only to see it crumble under his hands. A mother threw her baby toward a stranger's arms and disappeared in the wave. Electric poles sparked, currents rippling through the mud like veins of lightning. From above, helicopters circled blindly, their rotors slicing through smoke and ash. Spotlights swept over what had once been Armero, now only a moving sea of gray and brown, alive and merciless. Maria's foot slipped. She fell hard, still gripping her daughter's hand. The pull of the earth was stronger than both of them. She shouted her child's name, but the sound was lost, her mouth filling with dirt and water. For a heartbeat, everything slowed, the roar, the movement, even the pain. Through the haze, she saw the moon, pale, steady, untouched by any of it. Then came the silence, that heavy, final stillness between one breath and the next. The kind that means something sacred has ended. A single radio crackled somewhere far away, one broken transmission, then nothing. The mountain exhaled once, a long sigh through smoke and ruin, and when it stopped, the world stopped with it. Armero was gone. When morning came, the valley was gone. What had been Armero, a town of laughter, markets, and whitewashed walls, was now an endless, flattened plain of brown. A grave disguised as silence. The church, the plaza, the bakery, the school, all erased, buried beneath 20 feet of mud so dense it shimmered like wet stone. Only a few rooftops pierced the surface, crooked and still, like hands frozen mid-prayer. Helicopters hovered low, their blades slicing through haze, scattering dust that used to be homes. Rescuers moved carefully, shouting names that dissolved into the wind. No echoes came back. A man wandered in circles, clutching a torn shirt, calling for his wife until his voice collapsed into breathless sobs. Nearby, a priest stood knee-deep in sludge, raising a wooden cross above the mire. It slipped, sank, and was gone. Pieces of life floated by: a shoe, a child's toy, a family photograph sealed in mud. A rescuer knelt beside a broken door where something red caught his eye, Maria's ribbon. He lifted it gently, wiping the dirt away, staring at the fragile strip of color as if it could explain what had happened. He didn't know who it belonged to, only that it mattered. The air smelled of rain, sulfur, and metal. A radio crackled somewhere in the distance, a calm announcer's voice still reading the morning news, unaware the town it spoke to no longer existed. By noon, the rain returned, thin and cold. It fell on everything equally, the living, the lost, the mud that refused to give them back. No one spoke. The only sound was dripping water, the creak of broken beams, and the slow breath of wind through what remained. The world wasn't screaming anymore. It was whispering, softly, endlessly, the names of those it could not return. Weeks later, the rescuers stopped digging. The mud had turned to stone, cold, heavy, permanent. What once was a valley filled with voices was now a single slab of earth sealing 31,000 names beneath it. Helicopters no longer circled, shovels no longer struck the ground. Every sound had faded, leaving only the creak of drying soil and the distant hum of wind across a place that no longer existed. Scientists came with instruments and maps, tracing the lahar's path from the mountain to the sea. In their reports, they found the warnings that had gone unheard: sulfur readings, tremors, letters marked urgent that never reached the right hands. The tragedy, they realized, had not arrived in a moment. It had been built, layer by layer, out of disbelief and delay. Maria survived. They found her miles downstream, barefoot and half buried in ash, her eyes open but unfocused. When rescuers lifted her, she kept whispering her daughter's name, her hands clenched around nothing but air. When asked who she had lost, she answered simply, everyone. In the hospital, she dreamed of her child's hand reaching through the mud, warm, alive, forgiving. Nurses said she would wake crying, then smile faintly, as if someone had just promised to find her again. She never left Colombia. Every year on the anniversary, she returned to where the town once stood, a quiet field of green grass and white crosses that sway when the wind remembers. She would kneel there, brush the soil with her fingers, and say, "I'm still here." The mountain sleeps again now, calm, magnificent, pretending innocence. Tourists take photos of its snow-capped peak. New houses rise in nearby valleys. Children play, laughter echoing where screams once did. We call it progress, the courage to rebuild beneath the same shadow. But the earth remembers what we choose to forget. Sometimes, I think about them, the laughter, the smell of bread, the faith in ordinary days. And I wonder if silence is nature's forgiveness or its final warning. It wasn't the volcano that took them, no? It was the silence. The kind that follows every warning we choose not to hear.